Welcome to a very quiet night in St. George. It's been a busy week, so I think we have flight. But in any event, welcome. I'm Tony. Everybody in the room almost knows that, but we started these conversations in January of 2024. It was the Mid-Coast Council of Governments that actually did the first one at Glenn's son Buzz was there, myself, Josh Miller and Scott Lord participated. Last year we had, or in the winter we had Hale Miller and Randy Cushman and Mike Felton and Sarah Tay from Herringut. And then in the spring and March we had Jacqueline Robideau, who is the Sea Grant seaweed specialist, and Scott Lord, who's lobster and seaweed grower. So the idea was just to kind of like continue to generate some conversations for the community, to record them for the town. We were kind of sad the Mid-Coast Council of Governments didn't record the meeting because it was interesting. We all kind of went, huh, it's interesting when the only ground fisherman in the room is the one with the good news, which was Buzz Libby at the time. So there's always this changing field, and I feel like we don't, as consumers of media, don't always get to hear the backstory of like what's front facing. And it feels important, if we're going to be a working waterfront community, to support the working waterfront, what that takes. And so we have here tonight Sarah Rademacher from American Unagi. And Sarah, can I say this? You started at Herringut a whole bunch of years ago, and then kind of like got the idea for American Unagi. And she's going to talk about that. Buzz Billick, who we've just met for the first time, except I think we've been on Zoom at some point together regards to Wildcat, is from Acme Smoked Fish, which is a 100-year-old national company, right?
International
Yes. Company. So we kind of wanted to like, what does it take to be a seafood company? Glenn Libby, for anyone who doesn't know, is Port Clyde Fresh Catch. And Glenn and I collaborated on a book a bunch of years ago, because one of the things that we kept talking about was anytime the media came to do a story about Port Clyde Fresh Catch, it always felt like all they said was fishermen were overfishing. And they never told the story of what they were doing. And so that was really kind of the inspiration for that book. And we also have Jim Lee, AKA Spinner, from Off the Dock Lobsters. So we're gonna get started. I was gonna start with Glenn. How'd you start Port Clyde Fresh Catch? How's it going? How did you start Port Clyde?
How did I start it?
How or why? You can.
It was an outgrowth of the Mid-Coast Fishermen's Association. It's turned into Maine Coast. It's the short version. But anyway, there was a whole fleet of groundfish boats, and we weren't catching a whole lot of fish at the time, and we weren't getting a whole lot of money for what we were catching. So we thought, well, we'll show them, we'll just fillet our own fish and sell them and get more money. And we did on a small scale, but we didn't really have any market, which you need. And the fishermen were all enthusiastic to start with, but they kind of weren't that enthusiastic. So they didn't want to come in from fishing and come down there and cut fish, which was my fantasy vision. But that didn't happen. And over time, we moved into where we are now, up the road just a little bit. And we had some restrictions on the lease of what we could do. We could still fillet fish, but there was almost nobody going anymore. Randy was still going, and Justin was still going, but I couldn't get Justin, my son, to bring any fish over. He didn't have any time for that. Randy was pretty loyal. So we had some of his fresh filleted fish for a while, but not enough to supply a big market. The restrictions on the lease that I mentioned, we weren't allowed to process lobster, because Linda owned the building, and she said she didn't want us being a lobster processor, I don't think she had anything to worry about, but anyway. So we started doing crabs. Actually, we started doing crabs before that. We were down by Herring Gut in the old building down there. And shrimp season got over, nobody was ground fishing, and everybody's looking around the table and they go, all right, what are we gonna do now? And Cheryl Waite was there. And she said, hey, why don't we try picking crab meat? And that's where it started. And the results weren't too stellar to start with. We got a lot of comments like, that crab meat's full of shells. And we were still under the problem of not really having a lot of market because we hadn't developed a lot of customers. Because when we did sell them crab meat, it was full of shells, so they didn't call back. But, and the crew wasn't really trained to do it efficiently. But over time, we've refined the process, and we can go through with a small crew. There's what, count me, 5 of us right now. We can go through 15 crates a day of crabs and be all done by 1 o'clock. So it's,
And that's become your bread and butter?
and I've got a lot of market now. I've got a lot of people I call every day.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know it the last 2 weeks though. All I've done is stuffed crab meat in the freezer pretty much. I just went to I had a doctor appointment down in Boston. Oh, in the middle of it, I ended up with getting sick, and I ended up with a double organ transplant. So that kind of slowed things down a little bit, but I got over that, and I still have to go for a checkup, but hasn't stopped me.
Well, good on
One
you.
thing I will say, anybody wants to get into the processing business, be prepared to have a 12-hour day be a short day, because I'm up at 3 a.m. just about every day, 6 days a week, even now. So there's no rest. But I love it. I mean, I can't just still, if I get a day off, it's okay, but I feel worse if I sit around for a day than I do if I go to work every day. So, you know, it tires me out not doing anything. So, sort of. But yeah, I mean, we've been through a lot of different things. I remember when they started Catch a Piece of Maine, right? The Ready Boys, Ready Lobster. One of their things back when we first started, they were first starting that. Basically, it was kind of like a CSF for lobster. That evolved into a whole different thing too. But one of the things they said, use skepticism as motivation. And I never forgot that. And it works. If you're determined to prove the skeptics wrong,
Right.
you know, it's easy to quit, but if you keep going, I mean, you gotta be smart, you gotta learn a lot.
What year did you start?
Huh?
What year did you start?
Geez, I think it was about the same time Sarah did, I think. We were both down there.
Yeah.
What,
I got
14, 15 years ago?
Very good. It was-
Well,
You did have a CSF for a while, because I remember
I'm sorry,
you had
A CSF to begin.
CSF, that was the
Yeah.
first thing we did.
Yeah.
We weren't even thinking about processing a fillet, and we would come in and unload the fish and put them in those illegal shopping bags that you can't get anymore, and take them
Yep.
around to drop off places. People would buy shares,
Yep.
Yeah.
and
And you went to farmers markets too.
farmers markets, we went all over the place, and but I don't know I couldn't tell you what the profit margin was at that time, but I'm sure it was pretty low.
Yeah.
But it was fun,
Yeah.
you know, I met a lot of
Built your
people.
following.
I've got this one woman that sells fish tacos at the Common Ground Fair. We met her through that. She's still a customer today. She'll advise once a year, but she, you know, we stay in
There's a
touch.
lot.
Huh?
She buys a lot once a year.
Yeah, she, like what'd she buy this year? 350 pounds of pollock.
Okay.
We used to fillet it when the boats was coming in, but I got it from out of Booth Bay this year and just froze it and sold it to her, but that's what we do now.
Glenn, I'm gonna jump around a little bit and ask Buzz about and we'll come back. 'Cause
Yeah.
we're gonna keep this going, but,
Okay.
so Buzz, what's it like for you? You're the chief fish buyer? Chief? team buyer?
I'm on a team of procurement specialists that I'm currently involved with.
Okay, what does that mean for the folks in the room?
I think before I tell the folks in the room what that means.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take a step back.
Sure.
And tell you how I got involved with this.
Perfect.
And for everyone in the room, I'm in the smoked seafood business. And unlike everyone else here, that business is not located on the peninsula. It's headquartered in Brooklyn, New York. And the company has 4 processing facilities in the States. It's New York, North Carolina, Florida, Massachusetts. And in each of those locations, we're curing and smoking primarily salmon and other species. We have an operation down in Chile. We have a division over in Denmark. My wife is already shaking her head that I'm giving you too much information. I'll try to consolidate.
Totally why you're here.
But really what I wanted to mention to you is that back in the 70s, my last life, when I was a college student, I actually was a lobsterman by summer profession. And each summer while I was going to school in Rhode Island, I fished on an inshore lobster boat. I graduated with a business degree, and that actually led me to another big decision I had to make. And my father was quite interested in the answer, and I told him I wasn't sure what was going to be next. And he said, we need to figure that out fast because you now have a bachelor's degree and I want to know what you're going to do. I told my parents that I wanted to fish commercially, which meant I wanted to fish on a boat that was going to go offshore. And I did that from the month of June when I graduated college. I made it through March. And at that point, I fell apart physically, mentally, spiritually. And it was time for me to retire from my commercial fisheries endeavor. I went back down to New York Metro where I was born and raised. And a month later, I took an entry-level position in the Fulton fish market. And I worked in the market from 11 at night to 11 in the morning for a year. And at that point, I met folks that owned and operated a smokery in Brooklyn, New York. That was 1980, and I have been involved with the smoked seafood and smoked salmon business since 1980. The reason that I'm here on the stage with the panel tonight is that the first month of COVID, my wife and I made a decision to leave our primary residence in Providence, Rhode Island. We had a couple kids that we gave our existing home to, which was Round Pond, Maine. And we came over to Martinsville, where my wife renovated a house, and we actually became full-time residents here on the peninsula, living in Martinsville. So that's a little bit of the background that brought me to the stage tonight. I think I probably should just pass the baton.
We'll pass it down to Jim. You want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing, who you are, how you got here?
Sure, I'm luckiest guy in the world, I think. Chasing grandchildren. I'm from Portland, so I'm very new here. I've been here 8 years. And I was lucky enough to run into one of the Cushmans. And they were looking for somebody to sell retail lobster off of their dock at the Port Clyde Fishermen's Co-op. So I told them, well, I can do that. And like I say, I'm very lucky because I've met a lot of the community through that business. My clientele is predominantly summer folks because they don't come here for chicken. So they come down and buy lobster, and I sell just the lobster for the co-op and through the co-op. I actually come from a nuclear our background, so I've just retired from that 8 years ago.
Okay,
We moved up here, like I say, chasing our grandchildren.
nice,
Yeah,
nice.
so I'm very, very happy here and
And just for scale, just because we wanted a breadth of scale, so I'm gonna suggest that maybe you're seasonally on the dock selling lobsters?
that's
Like, is
exactly
it
right.
June through October or?
Mother's Day through Columbus Day.
Perfect, got it.
And you know, it's up and down. Once school gets out and once the 4th of July comes, it certainly perks up quite a bit.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah.
And are you there all the time? Are you on call? How do you manage that?
No,
Do you
I
have-
have a sign down there. In the summertime after the 4th of July, we're there 1 to 5, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I have a high schooler, a now college girl. She's on there on the weekends.
Okay,
So, yeah, we're quite busy down there, and this year the pounds were off, but because of the price of lobster, the dollar amount was about the same.
okay,
So, yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're getting the full breadth, and then Sarah, give us,
Hey.
give us, your background and
Yeah,
what got you going.
as you mentioned, I came here, kind of on a whim to, Port Clyde through an AmeriCorps, volunteer. I thought I was gonna be here 11 months and ended up, it's now been like 15 years. And I was warned of that, but, very quickly, my background's in aquaculture and, was doing aquaculture at Herring Gut, but I got very familiar with what was going on in the state and just the whole community and region. And yeah, about a couple years into that, wanted to start my own business and kicked around some ideas and saw what was happening with the eel fishery and this really unique fishery that's in Maine. And we're shipping all of those little juvenile babies to farms over in China. And I said, why can't we just do that here? And started that adventure about 11 years ago.
Okay.
And now I'm in Waldoboro with a big eel farm. So, yeah, it's been a journey.
So, we're gonna stick with you
Uh-huh.
and ask you if you knew today. I mean, if you knew when you started what you know today, would you do it anyway? What would you do a little bit differently? What are some of the hurdles? Like, I know a lot about what the hurdles are with aquaculture, but maybe letting folks know a little bit and then where you're at and how it feels and what you might have done differently.
Oh, that's a good question. If I could do it again, would I do it? There is something wonderful about a little bit of being naive and like when something is really hard, because then you just handle the hurdles instead of never even getting started. And that's definitely it. I mean, it's been none of it's been easy. It's been really rewarding, a ton of growth and learning. And yeah, I would do it again though. Cause yeah, I love the challenge of building something new, and the amount of people and groups that I've connected to has been phenomenal. But yeah, I think with the seafood industry, fishing, aquaculture, you're working with Mother Nature. And even in my industry where we try to control all the circumstances, you still have living critters. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles and challenges is you can plan as much as you can set up everything for monitoring and for watching, but you're still at the whim of Mother Nature and she can be a bitch sometimes.
Is
But-
your
That's fair.
market primarily Asian?
No, we're all in the US.
It's all over?
Yep, so that was one of the things that, when we looked at doing that business, the US is importing more and more eel for the sushi industry. And at the point when I started the business, we were importing 11 million pounds of eel, mostly from China. And our farm in Waldoboro produces 500,000 pounds. So only a small portion that we're trying to displace, and so our market's completely focused on the US.
And where do they go in the US?
All over, coast to
Restaurants?
coast. One of our biggest customers is actually a sushi chain in the Midwest. that has been a customer for now like 8 years. So when it's in the Midwest, it's a trend. It's beyond a trend.
It's beyond a trend.
Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah.
And for the folks I mean, just for understanding the difference between, say, what you're doing and what John and I are trying to do with an oyster farm is you're entirely contained.
Mhm.
And so I think also the thing that's important to recognize is like a business like Sarah's can't launch without a lot of capital
Yep.
to get to a kind of, and then there's a bunch of us up and down the coast who are trying to be super scrappy and start oyster farms and just kind of build over time. I'm not sure there's actually a right answer to what those two options are, but they're not easy either.
No,
I think there's like liability in having to find capital and deal with that, and then there's liability in growing slow and being small and scrappy for a long time.
no, and I think a lot of times, even like big corporations, small businesses, you deal with a lot of the same challenges and.
Yeah.
It's, it's still hard, it's still farming.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And there's mother nature in that mix.
Yep.
Yeah. Glenn, what would you do differently if you were starting today? Is there anything you would do differently? I know you probably would do it backwards in high heels in your sleep, but.
I don't know what to say about that because I don't know what there is. I don't know how it would have been if I did it differently. It's been a learning process right from the start. And like you said, no capital. We took out a couple loans when we started, and that's our biggest problem right now is debt. Still paying them off.
Right.
But we're getting close. Once you do that, then you'll start to raise your own money and
Yeah.
maybe you'll be able to do more, but that's always a constraint.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes to start with, but I think where we are now, I've learned from those mistakes, so I wouldn't want to change anything from this point.
Yeah.
And maybe own myself. Something like that. The most important thing that I've learned is for something like this, it's really labor intensive, what we do. And you gotta have good people and you gotta treat them right, which means pay them well. So, I mean, at this point, I'm the lowest paid person on the payroll, but that's okay. Cause I wanna keep them coming back. I wanna know when we open the doors in the morning that they're gonna be there. And they are. The core group. We've had a lot of outliers that are no longer there, but yeah, I went ground fishing for 40 years, shrimping, scalloping. I've had all that experience. I don't know what I'd do different. I don't regret anything. I enjoy the learning process, I guess you could say. So that's no regrets.
Nice.
Yeah.
How has your role, Buzz, evolved over time? Has it changed dramatically, or like the work that you do?
The first 20 years that I was involved with the smoked seafood industry, I started out as an entry-level employee. I worked my way into an equity position that my family helped me with, and I had a 20-year run before my partner and I ended up selling to two venture capitalists. That was in 1998. And I signed a 3-year employment contract. I lasted 8 months, and I told the folks that purchased the business that they were making me ill and I couldn't work for them any longer. And I made a deal to forego some of the monies that were owed to me in exchange for them taking an employment contract and shredding it. That allowed me to go do what I chose. And I ended up going to work for my work as an employee for my most immediate competitor a year later. And that was 1999. I've been there since as a member of an executive team, an employee. So it's a very, very big difference from the folks that are up on the panel, including yourself, who are attempting to start and forge forward with a business. I am part of a key team, and the business, since I'm there, has gone from a primary manufacturer of smoked salmon to the largest smoker of salmon in the country and in many parts of the world. So the business has changed, my role has changed, and at this point, I think I'm on the back nine, I would say. I'm phasing out, and I'm down to just one category of purchasing raw material for the product that we actually bring in, pure smoke, and then distribute across the country.
Got it.
Can I ask where your salmon comes from?
Our salmon is primarily farm raised. Number one would be Chile, followed by Norway and Denmark. And then we have a division where we are continuing to smoke wild salmon, which all comes from Alaska. You're looking in the corner at an assistant buyer who went with me to Bristol Bay the first week of July this year, where we still go and monitor the wild sockeye salmon run for purchasing for our annual needs. But the smoked salmon business in the United States has really changed over the years, and it's primarily farm-raised product. And again, I listed where ours is coming from. We actually have a division in Chile where we have buyers that are purchasing from a series of farms. That fish is brought to our facility, and before it comes in, each and every salmon is treated for listeria. And whoever is up on this side of the room on the panel is all faced today with listeria in any of our products. And as consumers, we all know that that particular problem is not only in seafood, but it's in ready-to-eat food products. So that's a big change for the business today, for all of us.
Yeah.
Just having the ability to recognize that and try to stay out ahead of it so that it's not to be found in our environments or our products.
Jim,
Yes.
how, when you're thinking about, are there particular challenges like this gal that you've got working with you? Is that hard to find? Is it hard to find someone to come and that you trust, that you can tend the till, can be there, take care of customers when you're not there?
I've been very fortunate with my employee. She's been great, very smart young lady. She's off to college this year, so I assume she'll be back next summer. So, but I'm very lucky with my employee.
Mm-hmm.
The one challenge that I do have, or one of many, I guess, but the major one is cell phone service. If I'm on the dock down there and people want to call and order lobster, there's no cell phone service.
That's right.
So it's very, very frustrating and difficult. And a lot of people want to pay with cards these days, which goes through the Wi-Fi and cell phone. And it's just really frustrating that we don't have good cell phone service. Yeah,
That's a
They're
good
a
point.
big
I have
challenge.
tried to make phone calls for rides from those docks and yeah. it's
yeah.
tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sarah, we didn't get to how big your team is.
Yeah, so we've got 10 people from,
Full time?
yep,
Okay,
yeah,
year
from,
round?
yep. From one person in the basement originally, so,
Wow.
yeah.
And how many eels?
Around 2 million,
Okay,
yeah.
so if you have 2 million eels and you're shipping 500,000, is that like
Pounds.
pounds?
Yeah,
So I'm just trying to figure out what the math is between the living creature and the filleted
So
creature.
much math. Yeah, so we bring in about 500 pounds of glass eels.
Okay,
So that's what we like to bring in to start the farm, and then those grow out to about 500,000 pounds of full-grown eels. So that's the little ratio that is the simplest,
okay,
so,
okay.
yep.
And what's the season like on that? When are they coming in? What are the, like, what's the cycle? for-
Yeah, so we're kind of a unique aquaculture venture in that we still depend on a wild source seed, and that's our kind of our connection to fisheries, which I think is a really nice integrated version of aquaculture.
Mhm.
So our fishing season that we buy from local eel harvesters is from end of March until the start of June. But it's on a quota, so there's a set amount of eels that can be caught annually. Sometimes that run is really strong and it can happen in as little as 2 weeks, and sometimes it can take the entire season, which is what happened this year. So,
Wow, okay,
yeah.
okay. And then grow out, how long does it take them to grow?
Yeah, it takes between a year and 3 years, so
Really?
we don't use any hormones or antibiotics or anything like that in the process of growing them, so we follow their natural. You know, putting it in a nice warm conditions, we can get them, some of them to market in about a year, and then some of them can take as long as 3 years.
Like an oyster?
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Huh, good.
Which is a lot of investment and a lot of risk that you're holding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So.
Do you get all your glass eels in Maine, from Maine?
Oh, yeah, yep, yeah, we have harvesters up and down the coast that we've built relationships with and work with, so.
Is that the same thing as the elvers that people harvest right down here in the creek or
Exactly.
in Waldeboro?
Yep. Yep, those are our babies, that's what we start
What do
with.
you feed them?
So they're, one of the reasons I liked the idea of growing eels is that in Europe, they've been doing, land-based eel farming since the 1980s. So the industry already existed, a lot of family farms actually, which was really interesting. So they have eel diets that are made, so it's like almost, like buying dog food or cat food, they have eel food, so. So we have this special diet and it's got, everything that they need in their different life stages, and that's what we feed them.
That's amazing. Do you buy from Europe or do you make your own?
Yeah, so right now, the only eel feed producers that make them for the system are in Europe.
How are the tariffs?
Yep, they're there. And it was scary when it was gonna be 30%, cause that is, feed is one of our biggest costs.
Right,
So, and it takes about 1.4 pounds of feed to produce a pound of eels. So,
Well, that's for the whole time duration.
correct, yeah, but, it's about 25% or more of our cost is the feed, so that stuff is scary.
so are you gonna start a feed making company?
No.
Vertically integrated?
Yeah, no, I am not,
No.
but there is some manufacturing of feed that happens in Canada and in the US, but in the last 5 years, one of those feed mills shut down, so it's. It's stuff like that again continue to be challenges with
Yeah.
any business and trying to adapt and, supply chain and all of that happens, so,
Yeah, that's really interesting.
yeah. Crazy.
Buzz, what's it like watching quality, like going to Bristol Bay to watch salmon run? Like, what are they seeing? Like, are there environmental impacts that are impacting catch? Are you watching like increase or decrease in catch numbers over the years? Like, how does how does this impact your industry?
As I mentioned, we're involved with farm raised salmon.
Yeah.
And we're involved with wild salmon. You asked about Alaska, which is some of the finest regulated fisheries in the United States. The fish that we are primarily involved with, which is a strain of salmon, sockeye salmon, is very well managed, and the returns of that product are and have been breaking records for the last 7 or 8 years.
Cool.
So supply is well managed and plentiful. The problem in the state of Alaska for the industry is really not the salmon itself. It's the companies that are attempting to run businesses in an environment that is more expensive to operate and exist in today than ever before. And they all have, those that are left are trying to prolong outdated facilities and keep them together for a very unique fishing period. Alaska and salmon takes place over a matter of weeks. So the companies that own and operate these businesses need to maintain them and staff them and equip them for 6, 8 weeks. And after that, they literally put a padlock on the door and they go home. And the cost of operating these facilities is more expensive today than it's ever been before, which makes it a very, very risky business. First, you need the fish to return, and then you need all the pieces to fall in place as efficiently as possible so that you can actually make that work.
Yeah. Wow, it's great. Glenn, I feel like, oh, yeah, go ahead.
I just wonder, is there a tariff on the Chilean salmon and the Norway salmon?
There is
Yeah.
on both. The Norwegian tariff is 15%, the Chilean tariff is 10%. Yeah, and that's new for both.
And you expect that to go away when these tariff things stop, or was that?
I guess that's gonna depend on our neighbor that lives over on Upper Island and his decision.
I think you're right.
I don't think it's up to him.
Well, I think he's gonna have a lot to do with it, and his team, they are gonna decide whether these tariffs are going to be allowed, not only for fish, but in general.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court is gonna make a decision on tariffs.
I'm curious, Glenn, you and I feel like we've had this conversation many times, but never in the company of so many other fine people. But can you talk a little bit about your philosophy on, well, first of all, what's going on with the groundfish, right? Because I feel like it's always good to hear nice news, but then also your philosophy, like thinking about like major source and where you now get your fish from. I mean, you talked about crab earlier, but there's still fish. So where that fish is coming from, the idea of small harbors and then selling locally versus sort of the Portland fish market, for example. Like if you just kind of open up a little bit about where the ground fishing
Well,
status is now, and then.
as far as the groundfish industry or the fishery, it's come back really strong. Justin's making more money than I ever did and in less time. So he's doing great and I'm really glad to see it. That's my son, Justin. And I'll just touch on my philosophy with the crabs.
Okay.
We started the Mid-Coast Fishermen's Association to help the fleet, right?
Yeah.
The groundfish fleet. The biggest problem with that was we forgot we were gonna get older. So that's what happened. There wasn't a lot of new entrants. Because of the regulations helped to bring the fish back. But it costs a lot of money to buy a permit now and a boat and all that stuff. And there's not a lot of young people that have experience. So that's a big problem. I don't know. That's gonna have to be addressed sooner or later. The whole thing's just gonna go away. But then that would be unfortunate because there's a lot of fish out there right now. The numbers that Justin tells me are, we never saw it. We saw it back when I first started going with Lee Cushman. We'd go down to Burnt Island and make a couple tows with the Hilder and Helen, and we caught flounders, dabs like this. And there was 4 culls, small, medium, large, and jumbo. And I think the top price we ever got was like 25 cents a pound. So there was many times where we would just sell them for lobster bait, you know, but it's different now.
Where does Justin fish? Where does Justin fish?
We have to kill you.
It's a secret.
To tell you
Oh.
She wants to know where Justin fishes.
Oh,
It's a
that's top secret. Gulf of Maine.
secret. But he
He
fishes,
doesn't, he won't even tell me.
but he fishes out of here.
I get it out of him every once in a while. But the fish we get, I get them from a distributor in Booth Bay.
Oh,
They've
okay,
been around a really long time.
okay,
And, I got a good relationship with them. The whole thing, it's about building relationships. We got a good relationship with a lot of people that catch crabs now. I can get way too many crabs if I want to. And when we first started, we had a hard time finding any, because nobody was saving them, because there wasn't any market for them. I had a fisherman from, Owl's Head tell me, says last year, he says, this is the first time in my lifetime that I've had a market for all the crabs I can catch, and he catches a lot too. And in the summertime, we go through a lot, and we will over the holidays, but that's the basic philosophy, was to help the fleet. I didn't think I was gonna be helping the lobster fleet at the time, but that's the way it turned out right now. And you know, I think I looked at the numbers the other day. For over $250,000 that we paid to the fishermen this year so far, which is a good supplement to that. When you spread it all out, it's not a tremendous amount for each fisherman, but I've got fishermen from Jonesport to,
and they're essentially
South
making money
Bristol.
on, they're essentially making money on bycatch.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We always talked about that years ago, underutilized species, that was the thing.
Right, right, sorry, underutilized species.
And everybody likes crab meat.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
never could get it because your grandmother wasn't picking that day. you know?
Right, right, or Ethel.
So it's hard, but it's gratifying work. Yeah, the fish come from sometimes the Portland Fish Exchange. Sometimes they come out of Boston. So they travel.
And what about the?
They're all filleted.
Ground fishing fleet on the whole, like when I.
It's a lot smaller.
It's a lot smaller,
That's why there's a lot more fish.
right,
But
right. And those
it's to the
ratios.
point, it's to the point now where we need to figure out a way to get some new entrants. So like I said, there won't be any ground fish fleet.
Right,
So you've got to
right, figure
start
out.
to figure out how to get people in. Justin's my son and he takes my granddaughter with him.
Yeah.
And she loves it. So there's one,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
can see her running a boat.
Well, and it's to your point, Buzz, about, having a 6 to 8 week fishery and then a padlock on the door. I think one of the concerns for Maine is how do we keep a working waterfront? And if, the regulations are such, or the capital needs are such, like, it feels a little bit like there's a capital galloping, like a need for money that is consuming all of us trying to build something fast enough to have it stable, or like you said, you forgot you were gonna get old. I think that's a big piece of it too, where there's an aging fleet and then figuring out how do you get enough kids in and not have them be dubious that they're getting into an industry where, like, is this gonna work? All the headlines say you've overfished and there's no fish for me, or all the lobsters are disappearing, so it becomes complicated, I think, from an emotional standpoint for a
You've
family.
got to be involved with fisheries management and politics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that has to be your sideline.
well, and that is a big piece, is like, recognizing fishermen are not just fishing, they're doing a lot of politicking. Or as aquaculturists, we're doing a lot of yelling and banging and screaming, our heads against the wall, trying to get people to understand where the limitations are,
Right.
or where the drag is on a system, that if it's gonna blossom, things have to budge and move a little bit faster.
I served a term on the New England Fisheries Management Council. I was on the Marine Resources Advisory Council, several other smaller advisory panels at one point in time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I wouldn't have time for it now.
right. Do you have something to?
I just wanted to comment on on one word that Glenn said, and that was relationship.
Yeah.
You know, we, on the panel, we're all representing very different segments of the seafood industry. And I just wanted to make sure that we spent a few minutes talking about how important fostering relationships are for all of us in the industry, whether it's with our own team, buying product, selling product, and that goes for the smallest business here to the largest business here. It seems that it's becoming more and more important in today's times to have developed, refined relationships that are really the backbone of all of these businesses. It's so important.
It is so important. I agree. Yeah. There's a thing I keep hearing, which is we're in a trust recession. And I think to your point, like relationships are the kind of thing that can help get over some of that recession. But there's also, I mean, regulations. I did want to ask you, Jim, if do you have any supply issues? I'm figuring no, but that's a bad assumption from my part.
No supply issues.
No supply
Always,
issues.
Bring in plenty of
Yeah.
lobster and crab.
And you're never, like, you always have access to supply. There's never a moment where someone might come and somebody's shipped like lobsters out from under you or anything like that. Does that ever
No,
happen?
because
They're always there.
we're at the.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
at
at the
call.
source. You're at the source.
I mean, there could be a
Yeah.
bad weather for a few days or something like that, where the
Yeah.
guys don't go and.
Yeah.
They had already shipped to the processors and
Yeah.
left without
Okay.
any at all, but, you know.
It's
usually
rare.
It's
Yeah.
very rare.
Okay.
I'd like to ask the question. How? I'm new to Maine. I've only been here about 20 years. But one of the things that strikes me is, because I came from Massachusetts and that's a whole different story, but one of the things that I notice is that we're a huge state with a small population. Our tax base is small. But I'm sitting here thinking, how would you rearrange the state to support the fisheries that you're talking about? Does it work now? Could it be changed? Could it do something that would help you? But I can sense that all of these, the folks you represent and the work you do, it is on a small scale. Maybe not for Buzz so much, but and maybe not for Sarah, but are there things that would help that don't exist now because we just haven't thought about it? And I guess that's sort of my question. Where above us could there be a different way of thinking about this industry, aquaculture, fishery, whatever, that would make a difference?
I was at a meeting at the Samosa with Jared Golden a couple of years ago. He asked that same question. Said, less government spending and lower fuel prices.
Okay.
Less government spending means less taxation. If you're running a small business like this, 16 times a year, the IRS and the state come in and clean your checking account out for payroll taxes and what have you. And now the state keeps adding on more things. And we were just here a month or so ago arguing about a business equipment tax. So we're really being taxed to death here. And energy costs, lower energy costs will float all boats, no matter where you are, no matter what business it is. Those are my answers.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't need like some other government agency to come in and help.
Yeah, right.
Just leave us alone. Like, you know, you not totally like the Wild West, but don't put so much burden on. Let people keep more of their own money and they'll be able to figure things out.
Well, I think in Maine, that's gonna be always an issue because we just have so much more land than we have population. And that we have to be responsible for, but thanks, Glenn, yeah. Okay.
Sarah has a note.
Oh, yeah, I think it's a good question and, I think kind of to both, Glenn and Buzz's earlier point. One of the things that I've found super valuable about navigating, building something in Maine, but also this community is. It's easy to get connected to people and to find, common threads, common problems, and I think that's a really important thing as we all face challenges within the industry is finding people who are dealing with the same thing, how are they looking at it, you know, and finding a solutions or being able to work together to find solutions. And
Right.
I've been really impressed, as I've continued in the industry that there are people trying to make sure those conversations happen. And, you know, from politics down to, you know, a lot of the nonprofits that are, and like the fishermen associations, they're putting feelers out to try to make sure that, you know, all of us who have our heads down working are, taking a moment every so often to check in and like, you know, how are you doing? You know, what are you doing? I totally know you on the business equipment tax. Yeah, no, it sucks. So, you know, that's, there's a bunch of, I think those conversations and those connections are hugely valuable to help us continue to solve problems forward.
Jane, do you remember about that tax? Was it, what is, there's some, the
There is
process
an
thing.
exception for
Mhm.
for manufacturers.
Yes.
And so I think the guy from the state who was here was saying he thought that because that's primarily what you're doing is processing, that your equipment would be exempt.
Exempt, right,
And for fishermen, their equipment
is exempt as well.
But
And you have to detail
unlike
it.
in New York, where I used to live, New York doesn't have a personal property tax or business equipment tax. But 38 states do, and Maine is one of them. And our town had not been collecting this, but the state told us we better get with the program.
It was popular that we were collecting.
Yeah,
Right.
the select board took a lot of heat for the fact that, you know, we felt we needed to abide by the law when the state told us that we did. We haven't actually started doing it yet though, because it's gonna be folded into when we have our revaluation of our real property.
Okay.
But
You have something
I
else?
did have a question, which was about
That it's gonna go in.
regulation. I know Tony and others have talked a lot about the fact that the state's licensing and permitting is so slow that people can't wait years to find out if they're gonna be able to build this business and wait a long time before you make any money. And I'm wondering if there are other governmental impediments to people making a good living in this that you're aware
Dude, come to the shrimp meeting in December. That's a big governmental impediment.
of. What, I'm sorry, what is that?
The shrimp,
Sorry.
the shrimp meeting, so they're gonna discuss, are they gonna discuss?
Well, my brother and I are cooking up another research plan. We were responsible for that last year,
Yeah,
but we handed it off to the wrong people and they messed it all up. So we got another plan this year.
We actually.
You don't know if the people that's getting paid to be there will like it, we're gonna push for it anyway.
You said the fisheries are coming back strong, and I agree with that, but
This,
isn't shrimp an exception?
there's a whole other species of shrimp out here. The vein shrimp. And I've been pushing, trying to get, it's unregulated, except for in Maine. The feds don't care about them. Go ahead, catch them. But, and I don't know what you'd have to go through. We don't really know that much about them. So my suggestion to the state was, hey, cause guys are seeing them in their lobster traps, right? Let them land them, bring them in, I'll report what we land, what they catch. And we'll have some data, we'll know where they are, when they're there, and that's how you start building a fishery. But if you just keep it shut off for no reason, you'll never know. So, maybe it's not worth it, I don't know, no one knows. As far as the regular shrimp, talking to Freddie, and he said, yeah, back in the 70s, there wasn't a bleep shrimp anywhere. And then they came back, and that's what they do. I was talking to a guy that I get crabs from down at Jonesport yesterday. And he said, yeah, the Canadians, when they get a lot of shrimp, and then they'll have 2 or 3 years where there's nothing, and then they'll get shrimp again. So you really need to keep checking it, you know, and you don't have to go all out. There should be more. The problem with the research last year, there could have been shrimp down east, but whoever designed the survey after it got out of our hands, they let Justin go. He wasn't even supposed to fish out here. They wanted him to steam to Eastport and try it. In February, it blew 60 and it was 20 below zero every day. Now, come on. Whoever thought up that plan didn't know anything about it. So that's kind of sort of what Linda was talking about. And I said, let us alone and let us try some things. And so that's part of the politics of it. But I'm always bugging people in Augusta. So we'll see what happens.
Just thinking about shrimp. Makes me hungry thinking about them.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, them vein shrimp.
Trucks out and you could, with 75 cents a pound.
We used to peel them, the vein shrimp.
Yep.
They're almost as big. They're pandalid species, but they're just a little bit smaller. And from what I gathered from Megan and Augusta, they're not hermaphrodites. They don't switch from male to female. They're either male or female. So that's a lot of information that we need to find out about these things. How abundant are they? I know where to go find some, but I don't know how many there are, you know. How much you
Put
could
Harry
take.
back to work here.
I don't know how much you could take without hurting to stop. What's a sustainable level?
Yeah.
But we got no data, so.
Yeah, you gotta start someplace.
What about UN regulations?
Yeah, no, this is, the land-based aquaculture has bounced around into who's gonna regulate it, who's
Right.
not, and like which department, and yeah, but generally, I think it's been good. I think sometimes in a similar manner, with this industry is it's new, and it can be difficult when regulations come ahead of the industry, and before it has a chance to, try stuff and get stuff and, give things a shot. But generally, we've been fortunate, in navigating regulation in part because the industry exists somewhere else in the world, so we're able to show examples of that
Okay.
versus it being brand new. But there's been challenges in the land-based industry from backlash of other projects coming through, and I've spent a lot of time in the legislation trying to be an example and say, like, there's examples of farms and operations that some new legislation would harm and would stop our business from being able to continue. So it's, you gotta wear a couple different hats sometimes.
Right, right. And when you say that, so I'm assuming you're referring to like land-based salmon or land-based, there was another project.
There was some land-based salmon projects. There was also some versions of cage farming that were also created some backlash on
Okay.
projects that were being proposed, and
Okay, yeah,
and what was interesting with both of those projects is the existing regulations actually stop those projects as is. So they were the regulations kind of worked to
Yeah.
stop projects that probably wouldn't have worked
Done
out.
well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But,
You mean like in Belfast?
Belfast is one, and then there's one that was proposed, across from Acadia National Park.
Right.
That was also, really new out of the box, but, the existing permitting and requirements actually stopped the project because they demonstrated they didn't have their stuff together, and so it did work.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hard parts is that the regulations are so rigorous that they do actually stop the things that, but they're also so rigorous that it becomes cumbersome. So to be a small, like if you're working in an industry like oyster farming, where we now have 40, 50 years of experience on the coast of Maine. Now, that doesn't actually mean what's been interesting for us to learn, like growing oysters in Port Clyde is not the same thing as growing oysters on the Dambriscotta. And so all of a sudden you're getting like a whole new, ream of information that's very, very different. And so I think that becomes hard too, because where we do feel like we have a lot of wisdom about that particular industry is from a very specific site. And everybody else up and down the coast is trying to do something in very different situations and learning very different things the hard way. I mean, obviously, we're all gonna learn things the hard way, but it's what's challenging then is now there are regulations there to I think part of one of the things, and I don't know if you've come up against this, but one of the things that's challenging too is then you get sort of the gentrification of the coast and you begin having the pressure of homeowner, not in my backyard. And so that's pushing on the DMR. So they're trying to modify and adapt to that pressure. And then there's all of us on the back end trying to, maybe make something else happen. And then there's to everybody's point, I mean, the market, like, I think it would be something that'd be interesting for a last question from me, and then we'll open it up in terms of like, what is the market? What is the challenge around market for you? Because I think, watching seaweed, for example, it's been having a lot of airtime the last bunch of years and the market seems to have collapsed and nobody can get spore. And so there's a sort of like whoopsie ding, it just goes up and down really quickly. And I think that's an additional challenge. And so not having a market there, then suddenly not having enough. There's just these weird maths that sometimes do and sometimes don't work out, but I think having these kinds of conversations helps everybody become a little bit wiser to like, if I'm reading something, what's behind it? But can you talk, and then we'll just go down the line from me, and then if you guys have any questions, we can follow up with that.
As far as like our market goes.
Yeah.
Challenges.
Yep, challenges, who are they, where are they,
Yeah.
finding them?
Our biggest competition is imported product from China, and with eels specifically, there's a lot of sourcing of glass eels that is not legal in the world and not managed. And what we're trying to do with our production is, not only sourcing it from Maine's managed fishery, which is one of the best in the world, but we're also, growing in land-based, have living wages for our workers and healthcare and all of that stuff. And we're up against product that's coming from farms where they use antibiotics. They like these containers that are getting tested have contaminants from chemicals that are banned in US aquaculture. And yeah, how do you that's tough to compete against that and price and cheap product coming in. So we have to spend a lot of time educating our consumers on why we're different, and even the whole story of eel. So that's been a lot of the legwork, but our quality of product that we produce and the customers that get it, they become dedicated consumers, not realizing how bad the stuff they were eating was. Like, I mean, it's like, I don't know, I'm also from the Midwest, so I didn't grow up eating seafood, so I can, talk a little crap on them, but I didn't realize how good seafood was until I came here, and like, and when I moved here, Glenn was starting his CFA and I would walk down and get fish and I was like, holy shit, this is so good. And that's, you know, the same thing with our product that is happening, and I think it happens with a lot of the products with oysters and stuff, is people don't realize how good it is here, and we're able to get our products out into, you know, across the country now, so. Yeah, so it's exciting, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, fair enough, that's
Yeah.
great,
Yeah,
So we're talking about market conditions.
yeah,
I am in a business where I probably have 22 different types of fish, all smoked. I don't offer anything on the menu that people need to eat. It's all luxury, special occasions. And fortunately, 75% of what I'm involved with is smoked salmon. And that category in the United States has been growing and expanding. It's no longer an ethnic 65 and older specialty. It's become quite universal. The other 15 products that we produce are selling, but they are flat. They have flatlined. And it's not that we're stopping, but the production and the increased demand for that has really slowed right down. So we are trying to figure out how we're going to educate new generations and wider audiences to actually be attracted to these fish that stop selling because they have been traditional ethnic favorites. Back to smoked salmon, which is the backbone of the business, it's becoming more and more expensive to produce these products. The folks that are the real backbone of the business are supermarkets and big box retailers. They're not relieved from pressures of doing business today. So we have a constant challenge of how we're going to produce the best product that we possibly know how, and do it at a rate that is not going to exclude folks in the marketplace from expressing interest in buying this product. We're at a point where I mentioned earlier that not only are we involved here in the States, but we have a facility in Chile, we have one in Denmark, and we're looking at ways that we might be able to transfer and relocate manufacturing to other parts of the world that will allow us to do it for less, so that we can try to pass that on to the actual consumers.
yeah, thanks.
What are some of your other smoked fish, the non-salmon?
In volume, whitefish from the Great Lakes. You mentioned the
Oh, yeah.
Midwest.
Yeah.
Where we buy a couple of million pounds of freshwater whitefish from all the different Great Lakes and up into Canada. We buy whiting from Argentina that ends up actually going into a smoked seafood spread. Same for mahi, goes into a spread. Black codfish from Alaska is an item that unfortunately has been declining because it's become a very expensive opportunity for a smoked product. Those are a handful of the main items that we are involved with. We also have a division that is in Toronto, Canada, where we were involved with herring, and that is marinated and then bottled in different actual sauces and flavors. That's a reasonable opportunity, but it's one of the items on the list that I mentioned that the younger generation has really stopped expressing interest in that. And because of that, it's just slowing down and not going anywhere.
Makes me think of the sardine industry and how that was
Exactly.
tremendous all up and down the coast.
Up and
Yeah,
down the coast.
and this neck of the woods too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
or Clyde.
Or by, yeah. Glenn,
Yeah,
Market,
on a little bit smaller scale than Buzz. We, started making cakes, crab cakes, shrimp cakes, clam cakes, fish cakes. And by far the crab cakes are the top seller. I mean, that's been a good addition to what we do. But I'm always trying to find ways to get people to try the other ones. You know, I did, second place is probably a tie between the shrimp cakes and the fish cakes. The clam cakes are kind of a new thing. The clams come out of Ipswich, get them frozen from same distributor I use. And I was just mixing them in and it was like chunks. They were chewy. So now I've got a meat processor and I put them in there and I make what I call clamberg. And it blends in really well. I'm trying to get people to try those because I think that's gonna be a good thing, but it's a lot of work to try to get people to try different things like that. And but the crab cakes, we keep running out of those. We can't make enough of them, so that's been a good thing.
They're wonderful.
Yeah, they're really good.
One question, why would you need to get clams from Ipswich if we have all the clammers around here?
It's the surf clams. Nobody's surf clamming. You know, I don't think the soft shell clams would work, maybe. But there's no bellies in these, you know, that, I don't know what that would look like. I mean, I dug clams for 25 years, so I know what they are. I don't think I'd wanna put them in without taking the bellies out. Maybe you'd still wanna chop them up. But it's a lot easier just to buy them all chopped up, and then we do have to take that one step to get it to blend in good. But I just started doing that not too long ago, so come get some, try them. Some are going up to the Belfast Co-op Monday, so maybe they'll like them. We sell there, and we sell down to Rising Tide.
and remind me, how far, are you still shipping just east of the Mississippi, or do you also ship further?
Maine,
Yeah,
farthest we ship, well, we can ship anywhere.
right,
I just sent some crab meat down to Washington DC
okay,
to a retail customer,
okay,
Not the way.
and it's expensive.
yeah, yeah,
He got,
yeah,
what do you get, 5 pounds of crab meat for $400. But half of it was air freight,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
I had to adjust my pricing on the website because I was getting killed on the shipping.
right,
So I basically just doubled everything,
yeah,
and that's about right.
okay,
I've gotta put another thing together where shipping in New England, you could ship ground
right,
and it gets there the next day, so I gotta divide that out. I think there's an opportunity there to sell more stuff,
okay,
retail.
yeah, yeah,
No,
that's interesting.
wholesale, we mostly ship around New England. No,
And Jim, you don't have the pleasure of doing any of this at all, right? You're
I'm
just
so small,
handing them the live critter.
that's it. And, we are, you know, I'm there to keep you guys away from the guy that's doing all of the work. The float manager is just, he's right out straight all day long.
Yep.
And, the only reason that I'm there is to keep the retail folks from stopping his work, so. There seems to be lobsters. I mean, we had them all summer long, and the market is, like I said, from Mother's Day to Columbus Day, but predominantly from 4th of July to Labor Day.
Okay, and you're not doing any shipping, like somebody
No.
can't call and, yeah.
No, it's just,
Yeah.
too much, you know.
It's a lot,
boxes.
it's a big commitment to make
Yeah.
that, for us with the oysters, we don't yet have the permit, we've done all of our legwork, but we have to be a dealer to ship across state lines, so when people say, oh, could I get oysters for Christmas in Maryland. I'm like, well, first of all, you're in Maryland, get oysters there, but thank you. But but it's that we can't go across state lines, and there is a part of me that's like, I'm not sure we wanna bite off that. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Tony, can you
Yes.
talk about your market with the oysters?
I mean, we're in the same camp really as Jim at this point in terms of local, hyper local. So we sell to the Causeway, we sell to North Beacon, we sell people can reach out to us and we can sell to them directly. The theory being, since we're in the lobster pound at, the Maine wharf, that we will be able to get on that truck once we can actually ship across state lines. And that is an advantage to Linda's question about like what's helpful. Sometimes I think distribution channels would be helpful, figuring out how to move product. And it does, it begs, it's a little bit of an issue, like we trust, John Petersdorf shipping them, but there is a question of like having live oysters and lobsters in the same, like you wanna make sure they're not riding close, like they have to have their own pallet and be in their own space. So there's lots of stuff like that where you just wanna be really mindful of where things are going, how they're getting there. And distribution, I think, is a really tough one. I mean, oyster farmers are farming, distributing, marketing, like doing the whole shebang. There's not a lot of gas left in the tank at the end of, making all that happen.
But are you adding to your production?
We will, once we have permission from the state. We can't do a thing until we have our experimental lease, and to date, we are 1 year and 11 months away from like my submission date. So you have a 2-year, 3-year wait for a lease, and then you have a 2 to 3 year product. So to expand, theoretically, when we expand, when we're able to expand, then we would have more product. And we're actually putting in for seaweed, scallops, and sea urchins to try and do like a multi-trophic farm. So we'll see. The jury's still out. We're holding on by our fingernails.
It sounds like to get into this business for you, or Sarah, or you're gonna lose money.
Yes, you are.
Like
You're gonna
a long
kill a lot of critters. Did you kill a lot of critters when you started? What are eels like?
Yeah, they're hardy, but.
They are,
No,
yeah.
but it's part of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At what point, Sarah, if this is not too nosy a question, did you start really making money with your?
I haven't, I mean, I do.
Oh my God.
yeah.
Who's gonna wanna go into business?
We just did, I mean, to get, like, we've been growing at over like every couple of years and building a new site, new investment. So each of those things, it takes, 4 or 5 years to get back, what you're putting in. So we're on year 3 of the new place. So it's, it's process.
I remember going to the juice conference. I don't know who remembers the juice conference. It was around like in 2006, 2007, but I remember hearing Chris Davis, who runs Pemaquid Oysters, say that it would take 7 years to see a return on investment for an oyster farm. And I was like, 7 years? Who's got 7 years? And now I'm like, oh, it's been a little longer than that, because he started in the Damascotta years ago, when I think 7 years was probably a reasonable. But I know, talking to people who are in, like small farms, like it's about the same thing for a small farm. It's about a 7-year wait.
And Chris and his partners, I know Chris well.
Yeah.
They had a passion for it. They wanted to do it. They loved the work.
Well, and from what I've read a little bit too, is they kind of fell into it, and then, like, I think that's my concern has been, there's also been like a real push by the state of Maine, like, oh, aquaculture, let's teach everybody how to become let's make the transition from lobstering to oysters or seaweed or whatever. And the reality is, being an owner operator, I mean, I think Sarah could probably speak to this, but as an owner operator model, I'm not sure it's gonna work. And I am concerned that the kind of scale you have to be able to function at to make it make money means you have to have a team, means you have to have a lot of room, means you have to have political will, means you have to have the neighbors all saying, yes, that's great. And we understand what you're doing and why it's important, and
You need an
I,
advertising degree in your back pocket.
and you need an advertising and a distribution degree in your back pocket, and I'm not sure that's gonna happen, and it's not gonna happen. Even if it does happen, maybe then what we're doing is having a conversation for the next generation. You know, we're having this conversation now so that somebody who's, you know, born tomorrow is ready 20 years from now to step in. But the fleet's aging, and I think that has an impact as well, and figuring out how do we like bring up the next generation so that they actually do have opportunities. I feel like we're kind of in a, you know, for my part, I feel like we're in a little bit of a sticky middle. But that's also why I wanted to, you know, wanted to hear from Sarah and wanted to hear from Glenn, is like knowing people have been doing these things and pushing the needle forward.
Yeah, well, and like I mean, Chris and those guys, since the industry for oysters really got started, it's been what, 40 years?
Yeah.
40 years?
Yeah.
And I mean, we're recognized within the nation for our oyster production now.
Yeah.
But but it's
flavor, it's not that long, it's
In
flavor.
a lifetime, in one person's lifetime, it's long.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Right.
not long in the scheme of things.
Right,
Being naive sometimes when you get into this stuff, it's good.
is helpful, yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Are there other questions we didn't get to that people are sitting on?
So do you think sea urchins are gonna come back when you said?
There's a little bit of, you know, people are making noise about potentially doing sea urchin as an aquaculture venture. We'll see. They eat seaweed, so we would do like seaweed's helpful for shell development on the oysters. That sea urchins eat the seaweed. We know the scallops do well,
How
so
long will it take to grow an urchin to market size?
I think it's 3 years as well.
3 years.
It's all roughly, seems like it's about the same. Yeah. The seaweed cycles out faster, but
Yeah,
the critters and the scallops too, maybe 3 to 5. Yeah.
Sarah, when your product goes to these sushi bars and out to the Midwest or wherever, are the restaurants trying to educate people that your eel is different? Because when you wouldn't necessarily have somebody tell you about every piece of sushi and where it comes from, but yours is very unique. So are they trying to do that when they serve your product?
Yeah, no, and that's, and especially with like social media and chefs, you know, wanting to, you know, share their ingredients and, you know, their special sourcing, like, I think that's one of the ways I've relied on our product getting out there is chefs sharing that story and being excited to share the story. And a lot of those guys have connected with me directly, so that's like, I know that you'll farmer. And like, that's a whole piece of the puzzle, but yeah, it's again, those connections, those relationships with those chefs who wanna tell our story is huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice job, guys.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much. And thank you, Erin, from our lovely Island Institute fellow who made so much happen, and Jane Conrad, thank you also. And Sarah, back up. Thank you all for having the conversation. Yeah.
Probably through all of this.
I know, right? Yeah. I know. Are you optimistic?
Oh, yeah. It's good. Yeah, there's some.
Nothing rely on a cell phone. You guys have them. Us, very much. Back up.
Yeah, and we get to stay.
So I went, put what's on live. Steep learning.
Yeah.
He was able to get the files back.